question that we have got to address is, what the hell is it?
About 5% of the population aren't affected
It is
immediately.
viral. It has to be viral. There is no plausible alternative.
We did a ton of research, and what was consistently fascinating to us were notions that kept coming out of science, and in particular, the swarming of birds or the way that animals pass on parasites, and it seemed to lend itself over and over again to a way in which we could talk about the zombies.
We wanted their behavior to resemble things that we associate with organic elements. So whether it's the zombies climbing the wall in Israel in the manner of a kind of an anthill, or other swarm-type behavior, we keep using a grammar about nature and science.
A zombie, in the simplest form, is somebody brought back from the dead. Zombies really appeared in literature in about 1918, 1919. Somebody wrote a book, Zombies in the Cane Field, set in Haiti, where there were many, many rumors about zombies being used as slaves to work the fields. And turns out there's a lot of truth to it. They hadn't really died, but they were drugged in a way that made them seem dead, and then buried, and then taken out very soon. And apparently they had lost a lot of their brain capabilities and just worked as slaves in the field relentlessly. And that is true in the sense that it was reported by many, many people who lived in Haiti, having seen this and witnessed it.
There was a memo sent from this installation 11 days ago. It had the word zombie in it. Do you know anything about it?
Yeah. It was an email, not a memo.
Pretty obvious nobody back home bothered to read it.
What we fear and what fascinates us are reflections of our own insecurities and our own doubts and our own questions about nature and the universe. With the zombie, it is a manifestation of our fear of death. And we are both attracted by that and frightened by that, and therein lay the appeal of zombie movies.
Zombies as we know them began with the George Romero film, Night of the Living Dead, and what the fear at that time of nuclear annihilation or the ramifications of radioactivity and what could happen to you and your body. And today, the different kinds of fears that we have, they're still based on fear. The very specific, whether it's germs and bacteria and viruses, or whether it's radiation from nuclear holocaust, really is a trivial difference. It's still the fear of death.
I became involved with World War Z through Jeremy Kleiner, who was very interested in the biological basis for this film. What I do is I work on zombie ants, a particular system where parasites infect individual ants, worker ants belonging to a colony. And as they infect them, they take over their behavior and make the individuals move away from the rest of the hive, move to some other location, which is exactly the location where the parasite wants to grow and reproduce. And they do this in a very orchestrated manner, and it's one of the most complicated examples of parasite manipulation of host behavior that we yet know. But in thinking about the movie and reading the scripts early on and discussing a lot with Jeremy and the scriptwriter, we explored the different types of manipulation that we see in the natural world. And so what we wanted to do in discussing this was think about the biological basis of manipulation, how behavior can be controlled by one organism, a parasite, to bring about the central thing that parasites need, which is transmission.
Once I saw bitten, turned to 12 seconds. Same here?
5 or 10 minutes.
Where do zombies come from? Do we understand the basis of this? We can think about vampires and werewolves, and we know that they have a biological basis. The rabies virus, which causes mammals to lose control, become aggressive, attack other individuals. We know squarely that the birthplace of a lot of these myths and legends about werewolves and vampires comes from that virus.
There's a single-mindedness to these characters. almost a herd mentality. One leads and the rest follow. Like lemmings, they go, but some survive, so the hunt continues.
From a biologist's perspective, it makes an awful lot of sense, because the virus in an individual body is, to a large extent, genetically identical to the virus in other bodies. And therefore, because they're genetically identical, essentially clones, they should cooperate.
They're actually a lot like a swarm of ants or termites. So, for example, scaling walls is something that ants do all the time. They can't talk to each other. They just use little signals with their neighbors, and out of that collective action emerges this large-scale pattern.
One of the many things a virus or bacteria needs to thrive is a live host.
Functioning circulatory system.
I'm afraid it boils down to one simple fact.
Can't make a dead person sick.
A zombie is an organism who is controlled and has no endpoint on of itself. It's dead. In the case of biological systems, they're reproductively dead.
I think they're spreading a pathogen, and they need a healthy host.
In the movie, we see a goal-directed behavior. When the zombies bite an individual, that individual itself tries to seek out and find more hosts. That's exactly what we see in the natural world. We can see parasites when they infect another individual. That individual itself is trying to pass on copies of the parasite genes. For a biologist interested in diseases, this whole genre of zombies is absolutely fascinating because it describes to us the general concern society has with diseases that come from elsewhere.
The movie like this is a way to just drive home the fact that something new can pop up out of nowhere and spread very quickly. And to that extent, even a movie about zombies trying to take over the world is actually accurate.